Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. All right. So the IRS released their 2018 criminal investigation report. Basically, they said, hey, here's how we did with catching criminals. And so this report caught my eye because, I see the tax blotter, for IRS crimes. Anyway, I read those things because I want to see, what the shady folk is doing, right? So that, so I can help warn my audience and warn consumers like, hey, here's the things that you need to look out for. So I do pay attention to these things because, it's just stuff you need to know. So in 2018, the IRS spent 73% of their time investigating tax crimes. That includes refund fraud, identity theft, employment tax, tax schemes, just regular old run-of-the-mill tax fraud, and international crimes. And then they spent 13.7% of their investigative time on non-tax stuff, and that can be corporate fraud, again, just general old regular fraud, right? That's what I think is hilarious. And then there's the, in narcotics, right? And that has to do more with money laundering and working with the drug enforcement network. So this is how the IRS, the Criminal Investigation Unit, has spent their time in 2018. And the other thing I'll tell you, and I will continually remind you, is that even though the IRS had a reduction in staff, so for 2018. They had a 6.4% reduction in staff, and then a 6.1%, 6.4% reduction in special agents, and then 6.1% reduction in professional staff. But even though there's that reduction in staff, that's only an increase in automation, in that the IRS is becoming more tech savvy in how they investigate crimes. And so this is what I was talking about previously, where, you've got different systems that are now talking to each other. That's going to make it easier for the IRS the criminal enforcement, to do their work. So, now for tax crimes, you guys, let me tell you, the IRS, they're on point. So, a lot of times people think about getting audited, and, I hear a lot of taxpayers say, well, here, I want you to do my taxes properly because I don't want to get audited. And the truth is that there's no one that can tell you that you won't get audited. There's nothing that you can do that will 100% say you won't get audited, because that's not a decision that we make. That's a decision that's made at the IRS. And if your number is up, your number is up. So the only thing that you can do is just be prepared in the event of an audit. So that this is why I tell you to prepare your returns as if you knew you were going to get audited tomorrow, because really it could happen to anybody. It really can happen to any old person. It doesn't matter if you followed the law your entire life. Being audited is one of those things that nobody can control. The only thing that you can control is preparing your taxes properly and having the proper documentation to support your expenses. But so for tax crimes, the IRS initiated 1,714 investigations. 1,050 prosecutions were recommended. So that's 61%. So, so out of 39% of those investigations, they investigated, but they didn't find anything that warranted prosecution. Now, out of those 1,050 prosecutions, though, 1,052 were sentenced. And so, and with the tax crimes, they're looking at, different types of abusive tax schemes where people have shell companies and that kind of thing, to try to hide, ownership of assets. And then there's the refund fraud program. And this is what it says. These programs cover criminals who file fraudulent tax returns to steal government funds. These schemes involve individuals filing multiple fraudulent returns using personally identifiable information. and for people that either know or don't know that this is happening. And it also it's also involved with investigating orchestrated preparation and filing of false income tax returns by corrupt return preparers. Okay, so it's not just individuals like taxpayers; they're also investigating tax preparers. And I tell y'all about these folks that be going to jail. These preparers often claim inflated personal or business expenses, false deductions, excessive exemptions, or unallowable tax credits. And the clients may or may not know. Then there is the general tax fraud, where common practices include keeping two sets of books, making false entries, claiming personal expenses as business expenses. How many times I tell y'all about that? Claiming false deductions or credits against taxes owed, and hiding or transferring assets. So in 1,700 investigations, 1,050 prosecutions recommended, 1,052 people sentenced. Okay. So, also in the tax crime, they're looking at employment tax fraud, cyber crimes, identity theft. Now for non-tax crimes, this is the bank secrecy stuff. Like when people are structuring is when, so I have to explain structuring because I don't know like the proper definition, but basically you're trying to fly under the IRS radar. Structuring can be if you are depositing cash intentionally of less than $10,000 to avoid Bank Secrecy Act reporting. Or structuring can be also where if you use third-party payers like a PayPal or a Stripe in order to avoid reporting, you stay under that 200 transaction $20,000 threshold. You either go open up another account or you go use another a separate account in order to avoid detection. That is also structuring. Now, for non-tax crimes, 1,172 investigations were initiated, 1,080 prosecutions were recommended, 1,059 were sentenced. So 92% of the investigations led to prosecutions, and out of those that were prosecuted, 98% were sentenced. The IRS has got a mega win rate. So if they come for you, they're 9 times out of 10, they are going to win. Okay. So, what is my point for telling you all of this? A lot of times, we get so used to doing the wrong thing that we think is right and we think it's okay because nobody has gotten busted yet. But as you can see, it's just a matter of time. So, so overall, for 2018, they identified $9.69 billion of tax fraud. Okay, almost $10 billion of tax fraud just in 2018. Other financial crimes, $10.4 billion, where they could identify where the money came from. They have an overall conviction rate of almost 92%. They executed almost 1,400 warrants, and they seized 1.76 petabytes of information. And so I had never heard of a petabyte. And so 1 petabyte is equal to 1,000 terabytes. Now, listen, you guys. Now, this is a 1 terabyte hard drive. So 1,000 of these is 1 petabyte. I think that's absolutely bonkers. I didn't even know that there was a data size that was that big. But, here's what hey, it is what it is, right? So you think about that, 1.76 petabytes of digital information has been, was seized from people doing criminal stuff. So, even though you might think, oh, only 1,000 cases of this or 1,700 cases of that, it's cool until you get elected, right? So, so this is why I share these things with you, because I know there are people that come to me and they want to, get around certain tax laws and all of that stuff. And I tell you, it's simply not worth it, because you may get away with it this year. You may get away with it next year, or you may get away with it for 5 years. But when you get caught, though, all that stuff that you did fraudulently, there's no statute of limitations. They can just go back. And then you have to, people wind up going to prison. You wind up having to pay restitution. You get barred as a tax professional. You get barred from practicing. Right. So, so this is why I share this with you, to let you know that, yes, the IRS is watching. I tell you, they might be slow, but they're not stupid. They have people that are forensic accountants. That's what they do. They go and follow the money until they get to something that is illegal. That's what they do. A lot of times criminal investigations where they might be investigating for one thing, and it winds up being a financial crimes investigation. I was actually reading on the tax blotter this morning where someone was prosecuted because they laundered about $2.8 million from somebody, but it wasn't the money laundering that they were convicted of. It was not reporting said income on your taxes. So even if you obtain money by illegal means, you still have to report it on your taxes. If you listen, there's tax language that says if you steal something, y'all, this took me out. So if you steal something and then you give it back to that person within the same year, you don't have to claim it on your income. But if you steal something and then you keep it, you're supposed to claim it on your taxes as income. That's what it says. So the IRS is watching, you guys. You might think that because their funding is slashed or because their staff is reduced. I told you that is only requiring an increase of automation. It is forcing them to get smarter about how they do business. And that is what is happening here. Okay. So you can look it up, the 2018 criminal investigation report for the IRS. It's about 127 pages long. I just gave y'all a little piece. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning into Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish, and you can come right here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.